Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe, and I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing. And today we have a young superstar entrepreneur that really has inspired me for a long time. Grace Garey is the founder or co-founder of Watsi, a crowdfunding site that helps fund healthcare for people in the developing world. Grace, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, as I was telling you just a minute ago, I've been following you for a long time, but it was fun when I was in Haiti last month looking for inspiring stories. That one of those that I came across was an organization called Haiti Cardiac Alliance that you have helped to fund. And so it was interesting for me to see your impact on the ground, you know, look patients right in the eye and know that's who you're helping, and at the same time be able to reach out to you and have you on the show. So welcome, and we thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great you were able to connect with them. They're one of our best partners.
So I want to first, let's frame the problem, because I think the problem that you're addressing is absolutely enormous. But I want to make sure people understand this. Why do you exist? Who are you trying to help? What's the problem?
So the numbers are big and scary, but I think they're addressable. There are 1 billion people in the world who can't afford healthcare, and millions more every year are pushed into poverty trying to pay for healthcare. There are roughly 200 countries in the world, and very few of them have a functioning healthcare system. And so people end up getting really sick and needing really life-changing healthcare, but showing up at the hospital and being turned away because they can't afford to pay. And so we are trying to use the internet to connect people and help pay for healthcare for people who really need it. So anyone can go on our website and see photos and read stories of people from 20 countries all around the world, including Haiti, who need really life-saving healthcare, and chip in as little as $5 to directly fund it, and 100% of that funds their care. So we just believe everyone deserves healthcare, and we'd love to be a part of helping to make that a reality for everyone.
It's an interesting principle that you espouse, that everyone deserves access to healthcare. And there are a lot of people who believe that. Not as many in the United States as in other countries, but there are a lot of people who believe that.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that you believe that, and you actually did something about it. That makes you remarkable. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Yeah, so I think what you just pointed out was something that really ate at me for a long time, ever since I was a little kid. So I grew up in Berkeley, California, with a childhood exactly like what you would expect from someone who grew up in Berkeley. But most importantly, probably parents who thought it was really important that I grew up understanding that I was a small part of a really big world, and there were people out there who didn't have all the things that I had, and that it was my job to try and, figure out a way to be useful. And I remember reading the newspaper with my family every morning and hearing stories of people in need, but I never knew what it was I could do to help. And, to your point, I believed everyone deserved things like healthcare and a safe place to sleep at night and enough food to eat, but I couldn't see a channel through which I could actually participate in making that happen. And as I got older, the stories of need were, no less obvious, but there didn't seem to be any clear way for me to get involved. And so after graduating from college and spending a while living and working in other countries and with nonprofits trying to address some of these big challenges, I came back to San Francisco and saw the way that technology was connecting people to enable all kinds of things that had never been possible before, from ordering, a ride in a car on your phone, to food delivered, to finding, a house to stay in when you're traveling. And around that time, I met someone named Chase, who'd just gotten back from the Peace Corps and had an experience there where a woman got on a public bus he was on and started asking all of the local passengers for donations to pay for her son's healthcare. And he similarly couldn't believe that nothing existed to connect people like this woman and her son with people all around the world, like his friends and family, who he thought would, of course, be willing to chip in, and help to fund her son's care. And so we just thought, what if we could build a website that would do this? And so we just started working on it on the side, nights and weekends.
Well, and you were eventually invited to Y Combinator, the very first nonprofit organization to be invited to Y Combinator. Tell us just a little bit about that experience.
We were, yeah. It was an incredible experience. Definitely nothing we saw coming. Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, heard about us on Hacker News and reached out to us and asked us if we wanted to join, sort of as an experiment, I think. But I think what we found, and what YC found as well, because they now ask for nonprofit applications with every batch, is that there's nothing really that necessarily has to separate a nonprofit from a for-profit. And what we realized upon getting to YC is that we were dealing with a lot of the same problems and trying to address a lot of the same opportunities as all of these other companies. And because technology was at the core of what we were trying to do, we actually fit in pretty naturally. And so for us, YC was just 3 months of pure focus on growth. How can we process more donations? How can we bring on more medical partners? How can we figure out the operations around scale? And having access to not only, the group of Y Combinator partners who all have areas of expertise that they could help us with, but also all of the companies that were in our batch, our peers, to test things for us and give us feedback was, a great community back then. And even now, almost 3 years out, those are the first people that we go to with questions or for feedback. So I think it was one of the most valuable things we ever did.
Well, that's what it's supposed to be. I'm glad that it was. So you've already achieved some great scale. I mean, for such a young organization, for such a small organization, give us a little bit of an update, a report on your numbers to date.
Yeah, so about a month ago, we passed $5 million raised to fund healthcare for 5,000 patients in 20 countries. So we're really proud of that, and we're excited about it, but definitely still a long way to go and lots of work to do.
Yes, there are 995,000 more people that need help. So there are a few left, but but you are scaling quickly, and that is inspiring. And so tell us a little bit about how it works. Where does the money come from? Who are the donors?
So the money comes from people like you and me. Our donors come from over 100 countries. Most of them are young, which is really interesting. I think traditional philanthropy has always been something that I think we think about, older, wealthier people really driving. But the majority of donors on Watsi right now are actually under 34. So we're definitely tapping into something that I think is really representative of the sort of younger, more millennial generation of people who grew up on the internet and think that, in the same way they have Facebook friends in other countries, if they're going to share a resource of money with someone, they not only want to see where it goes, but they want to meet the person on the other end and get to know them. And that's what we're all about, is creating that kind of human connection. And so, donors are people who donate $5, $10, maybe $50 to a patient, and follow their story and see the tangible impact that they've made. And that's where most of the money comes from. We've also managed to partner with a couple of really awesome companies who are excited about using Watsi as a way to engage their employees or their customers. So they'll make a larger donation on behalf of those people, and even sometimes using something like a Watsi gift card, let their employees choose the recipients of the patients that they support. So it's also sort of a new wave of CSR that we're sort of experimenting with.
So the way it works is people can go to your website and they can look for a specific case that they want to support, a specific person that they want to help solve their or pay for their medical problems, right?
Exactly. So you could go on our website and find, a 12-year-old boy from Haiti, where you just were, who needs help paying for life-saving heart surgery. and you could chip in to directly fund his heart surgery. And after he received care, you'd get an update about how he was doing, and sort of follow the whole journey.
Well, I wonder, Grace, if you, I hate to ask, but do you have a favorite, or at least one that comes to mind, whether it's a current or a past patient, where you can tell us the story so we get a flavor by way of a specific example of who you're helping?
Yeah, so one of my favorite stories, I think, is my favorite because it feels so representative of what Watsi is. A couple of months ago, there was a patient named Amon who was, I think he was a 27-year-old man from Kenya, and he had been the victim of a car robbery. So he'd been pulled over on the side of the road, and some robbers shot and killed the driver of the car that he was in, and he was the passenger, and they pulled him out of the car and shot him in both knees and left him on the side of the road. And he didn't have anywhere to go, couldn't really do anything for himself. And a group of passerbys, just good Samaritans, stopped on the side of the highway. They pooled enough money between themselves to get him to a hospital, and the hospital they brought him to was a Watsi hospital. So when he couldn't afford to pay for the surgery he needed to walk again, doctors at that hospital told him about Watsi. They posted his story to our website, and in less than 24 hours, donors from all around the world had fully funded his healthcare, and now he's completely healthy and walking again. So that for me is one of my favorite stories, just because.
How much money did you need to raise for him?
I think for him it was around $800.
It's amazing how far money will go in the developing world, isn't it?
It's pretty crazy, yeah, how little it often takes to really change the trajectory of someone's life.
Now, some people end up needing care in the United States, but often that care is donated, and what you end up paying for is travel. Is that a fair characterization, or am I missing the boat on that?
Exactly, yeah. So we take a really holistic view to the cost of care. And sometimes, like in Amon's case, what we're paying for is the cost of the surgeon's time, the cost of the supplies, and really just like straight treatment. But many times the bigger issue is actually access to care. Sometimes, you live in an area where there is no heart surgery, right? For example, like in Haiti, there's just very little infrastructure or resources to provide heart surgery. And maybe someone's willing to donate surgery in another country or, hours away, but if you can't get there, it's no good. And so oftentimes what we are funding is access to care, whether that's transportation to another country, or paying for, expensive diagnostic tests to figure out what kind of seizure medication you need to go on. And then once you figure that out, the medication is relatively inexpensive, so you can afford that. I think what we realize is that healthcare is really complex. And so taking a nuanced view and just sort of coming back to this idea that everybody deserves healthcare. So like whatever it takes, we will figure out a way to fund that, has been really important for us.
Well, that is inspiring. And you are an inspiring individual. I've been following your story for a long time. I don't remember how long, but you really are an amazing individual. You're inspiring to a lot of people. Who do you look up to as a role model? Who do you look to for inspiration?
Oh, man. So this is cheesy, but probably my mom. And I think the reason is that she was the first example, and I think still, after having met so many people in my life since I first got to know my mom, probably the best example of somebody who has managed to turn their passion into what they do every day. So she's a high school English teacher, and she's getting to the age where she's like getting close to retirement age. People are starting to ask, like, when are you going to just take some time off and start gardening? But somebody is going to have to drag her out of the classroom because she just loves what she does so much. And I think another thing that she's been able to do really well is keep her relationship to her work really fresh and keep challenging herself. She started out teaching, early level English classes in really impoverished high school districts in California. And now she's managed to sort of switch her focus to bringing technology into the classroom, and she's speaking at conferences all over the country and piloting some of the most innovative, ed tech programs in the country. And I think that's so important in any relationship, whether it's with a person or with your work, if you're spending most of your time doing something for the rest of your life, finding a way to keep yourself really engaged and challenged is so important. And I see a lot of the good things that I've been able to do in my early career so far as being instilled by having her as an example. So I definitely admire her for that.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that. And my wife's a school teacher. I relate to the nobility of teaching. So,
Yeah.
Grace, you're doing something that is extraordinarily meaningful, and you could be doing anything. Why this? What has drawn you to this personally? Why do you care about it?
I think it comes back to sort of what we were talking about before, right? Like having experienced myself this, very acute awareness that not everything is right in the world, and simultaneously not knowing what it was I could do to help, alleviate or reverse some of those issues. And I think my biggest fear was that I was just gonna, keep learning more and more about problems that existed in the world and never really figure out how I could be most useful. And that eventually, I would just have to sort of become apathetic and turn, sort of turn the channel off. And I think what really excites me about Watsi is that I hope we can contribute to a world where kids read the newspaper with their parents and they hear about problems all over the world, and they don't feel like they just have to turn numb and figure out a way to move on with their lives, but they know that they actually have a channel that leads directly to all of these people, and that they can connect with them and understand their stories and support them if they choose to. And I think that by making the world a little bit smaller and sort of promoting this idea that people are really more alike than we are different, and we actually can solve some of these problems, I think, in our lifetimes, and giving people a real tangible outlet to do that in a way that feels really positive, and not like you're just sort of buying your right to go on with your day and not have to think about this problem anymore. I think if we can make a dent in that, that's really what keeps me going, because it's solving a problem that I have experienced.
Well, you are making a dent, and I really connect well personally with what you said about we're more alike than we are different. I've lived on 3 continents, and I can tell you that is true.
Yeah.
As you get to know people, teenagers hate homework everywhere in the world, and the primary thing they're worried about is the kids of the opposite sex, right? I mean, that is the way the world works, and so we are all so much more alike than we are different. One last question.
Yeah.
Grace, you are having great impact in the world. I always ask all of our guests for an impact hack, something that we can do that would allow us to do more good. What's your impact hack?
So I don't know if there's like any one secret to this. I think probably the thing that has helped me do whatever good I've been able to do is really intentionally surrounding myself with people who light up when they talk about what they're working on. I think even if you don't know necessarily what your superpower is or what your path is going to be, or you maybe haven't found your passion yet, I think there's no faster way to do something effective and do something impactful, or at least sort of, navigate your way towards what that's going to look like for you, than just surround passionate, excited to be working on what they're working on. And that when you're collaborating with someone, or when you're sitting next to someone and peeking over at their screen, they are just saturated with that. And I feel really lucky to have that at Watsi, not only because it's motivating and it's exciting and helps us focus on how we can have the most impact, but also because doing a startup is hard and trying to have impact is really hard, and you're going to mess up. And there's going to be so many times when you feel like you're just moving too slowly and you're not making the dent that you want to make. And things aren't going the way you want them to. And I think being around people who are positive and driven and excited to be there is what'll help you sort of keep trying and keep going. So that's definitely been my hack is when in doubt, just make sure that all the people around you are lighting up when they're thinking about and talking about what they're working on. And if they're not, then change something.
Yeah. Well, Grace, I love that tip, because we all need that positive energy around us, because it's not hard to find negative energy. So we got to look for that positive energy. Grace, before you go, tell us one more time how people can find Watsi and help the people that you're helping there.
Yeah, so our website is watsi.org, WATSI.org. We're also online wherever you get your social media, Facebook, Twitter, so feel free to reach out to us and follow us there as well.
Fantastic. Grace, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
All righty. Let's do some good.